The desert at night had its own language, and Captain Aaron "Hawk" Daniels understood every word. The Apache's rotors thumped in steady rhythm above her head, vibrating through the cockpit like a second heartbeat. Out here, miles from me. Base, the sound was the only comfort she had, the rhythmic reassurance that her machine was still alive, still hers. Beneath them, the desert stretched like a black ocean, its dunes and canyons invisible, except when moonlight caught the edges. Her mission tonight was supposed to be simple. Surveillance. Nothing more. She'd been sent with her co-pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Kyle Mercer, to scan a sector near the border for unusual movement. Intel suggested that enemy convoys had been staging supply routes after midnight, hiding from drones that circled during the day. The Apache was perfect for such a job, silent in the darkness, bristling with sensors, able to float like a shadow over sand. But Aaron had been in war zones long enough to know that nothing ever stayed simple. "Sector's quiet," Kyle muttered, his voice tight over the intercom. His eyes stayed locked on the digital map glowing faintly across his screen. Thermals. Show nothing. Maybe command's wasting our time again. Aaron didn't answer. She scanned the horizon through her helmet display, sweeping her gaze across the black void. Nothing. Yet she felt it, something electric, a pressure in the air. Her instincts had never lied to her before. Then the radar chirped. Aaron's eyes flicked to the right panel. 2 signatures blinked onto the screen, appearing from the east, moving fast. Too fast for any helicopter. Kyle stiffened. "You? Hawk? I see it," Aaron replied calmly. Her voice was steady, but her pulse jumped. The signatures closed in, their speed climbing. Jet engines. Fighters. Kyle swore under his breath. No. That's not possible. They wouldn't send jets after us. We're a recon bird. Her headset erupted with command chatter, voices from the control center miles away. "Hawk, you've got 2 bandits inbound. Type unknown, closing at Mach 1.2. Break off immediately. Do not engage." Repeat, "Do not engage." Aaron almost smiled. They always said that do not engage. As if breaking off were so simple. As if 2 supersonic jets were already locking her into their targeting systems. Her hands stayed steady on the controls. She lowered the collective, nudging the Apache closer to the desert floor. The rotors groaned in protest as the aircraft sank lower. Dust swirled beneath them. Kyle's breathing quickened. "We can't outfly them. You know that, right? They'll be on us in 30 seconds. What are you doing?" Aaron's eyes narrowed behind her visor. "They think we're prey." The words slipped out without hesitation. Her co-pilot twisted. In his seat, staring at her like she'd lost her mind. "Prey? Hawk, they're fighters. F-16, maybe? Or worse, we're a helicopter. We are prey." Aaron exhaled slowly, steadying her pulse. The sound of her breathing filled the helmet. "Not down here," she said. She pushed the Apache lower, so close the landing gear seemed ready to scrape the sand. The desert rushed by in a blur, the horizon fractured by black ridges and jagged cliffs. She could feel the jets descending behind her, hunting like falcons diving on a rabbit. Kyle's voice cracked. "Command said disengage. We need to climb, run, get out." "And what?" Aaron snapped, her voice sharp now. "Let them lock tone on us at altitude? Let them have clean sky?" Kyle went silent. She steadied her breathing again, letting the vibration of the rotors ground her. Years of combat had taught her a truth many never understood. The battlefield never favored the obvious winner. The one with the bigger engine, the faster missile. The sharper claw that wasn't always who survived. Survival belonged to the one who refused fear, the one who bent the fight into their own shape. And Aaron had no intention of flying someone else's fight. The jets drew closer, their signatures flaring bright on the radar. Command barked again in her headset, their voices high with panic. Hawk, disengage immediately. Break off south. You cannot engage fighters in an Apache. Repeat, break off now. Erin keyed the mic with a calmness that made Kyle stare at her in disbelief. Negative. Command, they're already locked. Running just makes me an easy kill. Daniels. This is a direct order. She cut them off. Copy transmissions. Then she clicked the channel silent. The only voices now were hers, and Kyle's and the distant growl of engines closing in like thunder across the night. She could almost feel the arrogance of the pilots bearing down on her. To them, she was nothing more than a bug in the sky. Something to be swatted and forgotten. Helicopters weren't supposed to survive against fighters. The textbooks, the simulations, the training all said the same thing. But textbooks had never met Erin Daniels. Kyle shifted uneasily, sweat beading across his forehead. What's the plan, Hawk? Her eyes flicked across the canyon map glowing on her screen. She remembered every turn, every narrow ridge. They're faster. But speed kills control, she said. The Apache banked hard, the desert tilting sideways beneath them. Erin guided it toward the darker shapes of the canyons, where shadows swallowed the moonlight. Kyle's voice wavered. You're dragging them into the rocks? Erin smirked. Exactly. Behind them, the first fighter streaked into view, its afterburners blazing like twin suns. The roar shook the air, rattling the Apache's frame. The jet rolled sharply, lining them up in its sights. Erin dipped, lower, skimming the canyon floor. The missile warning shrieked. Kyle slammed a hand against the console. Missile lock, Hawk, it's got us. Erin's voice stayed calm, almost amused. Not if I take away its sky. She yanked the cyclic, threading the Apache into a narrow canyon mouth where cliffs rose like black walls on either side. The missile, locked on momentum, screamed past, slamming into rock. The explosion lit the canyon like a false dawn. Dust showered over them, rocks tumbling, the Apache shuddering in turbulence. Kyle's voice cracked again. We're dead, we're dead. Erin's laugh cut him off. No, now it's my turn. And with that, the hunt had begun. The desert night pulsed with menace. Captain Erin Hawk Daniels gripped the cyclic, her gloved hand steady as iron despite the chaos screaming around her. The Apache vibrated under the strain of low-level flight, rotors cutting the air so violently that sand plumed up in their wake. Her helmet display glowed green, icons flashing like warnings on a doomsday clock. Behind her, Kyle Mercer's breathing filled the intercom, ragged and uneven. He was young, sharp, a good pilot in his own right, but right now he was terrified. And Erin knew fear was as deadly as any missile. They're closing, Kyle said, voice cracking. 2 bogies, Mach 1.5, altitude dropping. They're hunting us, Hawk. What's the plan? Erin didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on the narrow canyon ahead, a jagged scar in the desert floor. They think speed makes them gods, she said evenly. But speed kills control. Down. Here? They're just birds with broken wings. Kyle shook his head, sweat running down his temple. Hawk, this isn't training. These aren't rookies. They're fighter pilots. They've got radar, heat seekers, MRA aims, and weaknesses, Erin cut in. Same as anyone else. The radar pinged again, sharp, insistent. The jets had achieved partial lock. The Apache's missile warning system wailed, its high-pitched shriek filling the cockpit. Kyle cursed under his breath. They've got tone on us. Erin banked hard, dragging the Apache so low its skids nearly scraped rock. The canyon walls loomed higher, swallowing them whole. Not yet they don't, she said calmly. The headset erupted with command chatter. Hawk, this is Overwatch. You're deep in hostile airspace. Disengage immediately. Break south, break south. Aaron keyed the mic, voice steady as a surgeon's hand. Negative, Overwatch. Bandits already committed. They're not letting us walk away. That's an order, Captain Daniels. You are not authorized. She killed the Combs. Kyle's head snapped toward her. You just cut off command. They're not in this canyon, Aaron said coldly. We are. Either trust me or bail out. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, just the thunder of rotors and the distant roar of jets closing in. Then Kyle swallowed hard and nodded. Your fight, Hawk. Aaron's lips curved into the faintest smirk. The first fighter screamed overhead, a silver phantom slicing the darkness. Its afterburners lit the canyon like twin suns before it roared past, banking hard to swing back for another run. The second jet lagged behind, circling, boxing them in. Kyle stared at the tactical display. They're flanking us one high, one low. They're trying to pin us, force us into the open. Aaron's eyes sharpened. Then we won't give them open. She wrenched the Apache into a brutal turn, hugging the canyon walls so tightly that sparks sprayed as rotor wash scraped. Stone. The helicopter shuddered, warning lights flaring red across the cockpit. Kyle gripped his harness, knuckles white. We can't keep this up. The frame won't take it. It'll take it, Aaron said flatly. A missile streaked in, its fiery tail cutting across the night. Kyle screamed, incoming. Starboard. Side. Aaron yanked the cyclic left, pulling the Apache into a roll that pressed both pilots hard into their seats. The missile screamed past, slamming into the canyon wall in an eruption of fire and stone. The shockwave hammered the helicopter, tossing it like a toy. Kyle's helmet slammed the headrest. His vision blurred. We're dead. We're so dead. Aaron's laugh cut him off, sharp and fearless. Not tonight. She leveled the Apache, eyes glowing with resolve. The jets weren't just hunting her. She was drawing them deeper, closer, into terrain they couldn't own. The canyon narrowed, twisting like a serpent. Aaron threaded the Apache through impossible turns, rotors kicking dust storms that blinded the fighters for precious seconds. Kyle's voice steadied, though his hands still shook. They're overshooting. Their turns are too wide. Exactly, Aaron said. Her voice carried a calm Kyle had never heard before. Not arrogance, not recklessness, but certainty. The first fighter roared in again, its nose glowing with weapon lock. Aaron's HUD blared warnings. Kyle shouted, Missile lock again. Hawk, flare, flare. Aaron slammed the countermeasures, flare spitting from the Apache's sides. The jet fired, missiles streaking in, but it caught the flare, detonating harmlessly in midair. The sky lit with another brief, fiery bloom. The canyon walls amplified the explosion, the thunder echoing like gods at war. Kyle gasped, We're still alive. Aaron's laugh was low, dangerous. And they still don't understand why. She dragged the Apache even lower, blades carving air just feet from the canyon floor. Above them, the jets circled like vultures, trying to dive for another strike. But every second they stayed down here, Aaron's trap tightened. She keyed the weapon system, her HUD shifting. Targeting reticles blinked alive, though she didn't fire yet. Patience was everything. Kyle glanced at her, eyes wide. You're baiting them. Aaron's grin was faint but deadly. Now you're catching. On. The canyon walls tightened like the jaws of a trap. Captain Aaron Hawk Daniels knew exactly what she was doing. To her co-pilot Kyle Mercer, it felt like madness dragging an Apache helicopter into a twisting corridor of rock while two supersonic fighters hunted them from above. But Aaron's eyes, cold and sharp beneath her visor, saw only opportunity. Jets owned the open sky. They thrived in altitude and speed, swooping like falcons, killing from distances helicopters could barely comprehend. But here, in the canyons, speed became a liability. Every wide turn, every delayed roll was a mistake. And mistakes were what Erin lived to exploit. The Apache groaned as she pushed it through another punishing bank. Dust rose in violent swirls, rotor tips cutting air just feet from stone. Sparks skittered as one blade nicked the canyon wall. Kyle flinched, convinced the helicopter would disintegrate. "God, Hawk, we can't keep this up," he shouted, hands white on the console. "We're flying a blender through a meat grinder." Erin didn't answer immediately. Her gaze stayed locked on the terrain ahead, every ridge etched into her memory. She knew these maps like old scars. Finally, she said, voice level, "That's exactly why they'll lose." Above them, the first fighter screamed past, nose dipping to line up another shot. Its afterburners lit the canyon in unnatural daylight before vanishing around a bend. The roar echoed endlessly, amplified by the walls. The second jet stayed higher, circling, trying to box them in. Kyle watched the radar, his voice trembling. "They're splitting classic bracket maneuver. One drives us out, the other nails us when we pop into the open. Let them try," Erin murmured. The Apache jolted as turbulence from the jets. Pass slammed into them. Kyle's helmet rattled against the seat. His hands fumbled across the controls, though Erin hadn't given him command authority. "We can't outturn them. Every second we're alive is borrowed time." "Then we borrow longer," Erin snapped. The missile alert shrieked again, piercing and merciless. Kyle's stomach dropped. "They've got tone on us again." Erin's fingers danced across the countermeasure panel. Flares burst from the Apache, trailing fire like comets. The fighter loosed its missile. The weapon screamed in, tail bright as molten steel. At the last second it veered, chasing the heat of the flare, detonating mid-air. The blast painted the canyon walls orange. Shockwaves hammered the Apache. Kyle winced, bracing for impact. But the helicopter held. His voice cracked. "We can't keep burning countermeasures. We'll run dry." Erin's jaw tightened. "We won't need many more." Her laugh, sharp, dangerous, echoed in the cramped cockpit. Kyle turned, staring at her in disbelief. How could she laugh now? With death seconds behind them, with every alarm screaming, with jets hunting them like wolves? But Erin wasn't laughing at danger. She was laughing because the fighters didn't realize the game had already shifted. The canyon narrowed even further, twisting into an S-curve. Erin slowed, dancing net. Apache through bends no jet could manage at Mach speeds. The blades howled. Dust obscured everything behind them. The first fighter dove recklessly into the corridor, afterburners scorching. Kyle shouted, "They're insane. They'll plow straight into the wall. Not if I give them something." "Worse first," Erin muttered. She jerked the cyclic, pulling the Apache into a sharp climb along the left wall. At the apex, she slammed the collective, flipping them sideways, so violently, Kyle thought his spine would snap. The fighter overshot, its wide turn bleeding energy. For an instant, its belly flashed past their canopy. Erin squeezed the trigger. The Apache's 30mm chain gun spat fire, rounds raking upward. Sparks flared across the jet's fuselage. Kyle shouted, "You hit it. You actually..." But the fighter rolled, engines roaring, peeling away. Smoke streamed faintly from its wing, but it didn't fall. Kyle's brief hope died. "We can't kill them with cannon fire, Hawk. Not clean. Not unless they hand us their throats." "That's the point," Erin said. "Force them down, force them desperate. Every mistake they make brings them closer to dying in my cage." The radar pinged again. The second fighter was circling tighter now, hesitant. The first had felt the bite of the Apache's teeth. Their arrogance was cracking. Kyle leaned forward, breathless. You're trying to make them chase deeper, hurting them. Aaron smirked. Exactly. For a brief moment, silence pressed in, just the thrum of the Apache, the whine of hydraulics, the pounding of two human hearts in the dark. Then, the canyon shook with another missile strike. Rock dust rained down, blinding them. The jets weren't retreating. They were angry. Kyle coughed, eyes wide behind his visor. They're not giving up. They'll blow this whole canyon apart, just to get us. Good? Aaron said coldly. That means they're afraid. Her laugh came again, sharper, slicing through the roar of engines and alarms. In that moment, Kyle understood. Erin Daniels wasn't just fighting for survival. She was rewriting the rules of air combat, one impossible maneuver at a time. And the jets were already too deep to realize they were trapped. The canyon twisted like a serpent under moonlight, walls towering high enough to cage the stars. Inside that cage, Captain Erin "Hawk" Daniels flew her Apache like a predator. The helicopter should have been prey, heavy, slower, built for ground attack, yet her hands moved across the controls with predatory certainty. Her co-pilot, Kyle Mercer, clung to his harness, caught between terror and awe. Above them, the fighters circled again, engines growling like thunder. The sound ricocheted off stone, each pass rattling the cockpit. They weren't leaving. They were tightening the noose. Kyle's voice cracked through the intercom. They're adjusting. Banking lower. Hawk, they're coming down into the canyon. With us. Good, Erin replied. Her eyes tracked the walls, every ridge and curve mapped against memory. She'd studied this place months ago during a dry training run. Command hadn't cared then. Just a routine familiarization flight. But Erin had paid attention. The terrain had spoken to her, revealing possibilities hidden to pilots who only saw rocks and sand. Now those possibilities were her weapon. The first fighter roared overhead, diving into the canyon mouth. Its afterburners painted the sky white-hot, shadows slashing across the Apache's canopy. Erin yanked the cyclic, weaving through jagged stone. The jet screamed past, pulling wide to line up for another strike. Kyle's panic bled into his words. We can't do this forever. They'll box us in, pin us against the walls, blow us apart, not if I get them first. Her thumb hovered over the Hellfire trigger. But she didn't fire. Not yet. Hellfires were precision killers, but they needed the right geometry. Fire too soon, and she'd waste her shots. Kyle saw her hesitation and snapped. Why aren't you firing? Because they haven't given me their throats yet, she said coldly. The second fighter dove lower, engines shrieking, its nose glowing with lock. The missile alarm wailed. Kyle shouted, They've got tone again. Erin unleashed flares. Bright fireballs spat from the Apache, tumbling through the night. The missile streaked in, hungrily chasing heat. It veered, slamming into a flare and detonating in a fireball that shook the canyon. Shockwaves pounded the Apache. Dust and stone rained down. Kyle coughed, vision blurred. We can't keep burning countermeasures. Hawk will run out. Erin's lips curved into a dangerous smile. We won't need many more. The canyon forked ahead, a Y-shaped split between two ridges. Erin's memory sparked. She remembered this place from the training map, a natural kill box. Her heart rate slowed. She could almost feel the trap closing. She dropped the Apache low, hugging the left fork, then flared hard, slamming the bird into a hover just beneath an overhanging ridge. To the radar above, they'd looked like they'd vanished into stone. Kyle gasped. What are you, she? Aaron cut him off, eyes locked forward. The fighters roared in. Moving too fast, too hungry to think, they both followed the canyon fork straight into the kill zone. Aaron's HUD screamed with solid locks. "Target 1, target 2, she whispered. "Now you're mine." Her thumb pressed down. The first. Hellfire leapt from its rail, streaking upward with a white-hot tail. It hit the lead fighter broadside. Fire bloomed, tearing the jet in half. Debris sprayed across the canyon like sparks from a forge. The second fighter panicked, rolling violently, trying to climb. Aaron had already locked it. Her second Hellfire shot upward. The missile slammed straight into the fuselage. A fireball erupted, the explosion lighting the canyon like dawn. Shrapnel rained in molten arcs. The canyon shook as debris crashed into the walls. Kyle froze, staring through the canopy, unable to speak. 2 jets, gone, in less than 10 seconds. Erin exhaled slowly, her hands steady, her heartbeat calm. "Splash 2, she said into the silence. Kyle's voice finally broke free, ragged and breathless. You just killed 2 jets. With a helicopter." Erin's smirk returned, faint but undeniable. "No, I just reminded them," she said. "Never corner an Apache." The flames of the downed fighters still clawed at the canyon walls when silence returned, heavy and suffocating. Black smoke curled upward in slow ribbons, choking the starlight. For a moment, Captain Erin "Hawk" Daniels let her Apache hover. Steady, rotors chopping the ash-filled air like a heartbeat. Her co-pilot, Kyle Mercer, stared through the canopy at the carnage below. His hands trembled. 2 fighter jets, obliterated in under 10 seconds by a helicopter. He wanted to speak, but no words carried the weight of what he'd just witnessed. Finally, his voice cracked, thin and hollow. "Hawk, we should be dead." Erin didn't answer right away. Her eyes swept the horizon, calm, calculating, as though the battle had only just begun. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold steel. Dead pilots don't get remembered. "At this," she gestured at the wreckage glowing in the canyon, "this will echo." Kyle's gut twisted. He knew she was right. Somewhere above them, satellites were watching. Somewhere in a distant command bunker, officers were listening, waiting for confirmation. He flipped his radio switch nervously. "Command, this is Viper 2-1. Apache still airborne. Enemy fighters neutralized." Static hissed for several seconds before a strained voice replied. "Say again, Viper 2-1. Did you confirm hostile air?" "Neutralized?" Kyle swallowed hard and pressed the mic. "Affirmative. 2 enemy jets destroyed." "Repeat, 2 fighters destroyed. Apache remains operational." The line went dead for a moment. Then a low murmur filtered through. Commanders talking, voices layered with disbelief. Finally, the radio crackled again. "Copy. Stand by. We are verifying." Erin's lips curled in a faint smirk. She could almost hear the doubt in their voices. The disbelief. Helicopters weren't supposed to do this. On paper, it was impossible. Kyle switched to their private intercom. "They don't believe us." "They will," Erin said. "The wreckage will do the talking." She tilted the Apache forward, moving cautiously down the canyon. Her senses were sharp, tuned to every echo of the rotors, every flicker of light on the cliffs. She wasn't celebrating. She knew better than to believe the fight was finished. Her instincts were right. From above the canyon, radar pulses washed. Across her systems, quick, insistent pings. New hunters were in the sky. The radar warning blared. Kyle stiffened. More fighters inbound. Multiple signatures. They're vectoring this way fast. Erin's jaw tightened. Of course, they wouldn't stop. 2 jets down meant command would scramble double, maybe triple. She banked the Apache lower, hugging the canyon floor, using terrain as her shield. The helicopter vibrated with strain as dust swirled into the rotors. Kyle shouted over the noise. "We can't take another fight like that, Hawk. You used half our hellfires. We're short on countermeasures." Aaron cut him off. "Then we'll have to get creative." The radio burst alive again, but this time it wasn't their command. A voice, deep and mocking, filled the cockpit. Foreign accent, clipped with arrogance. "Apache pilot, we see you. You killed 2 of ours. Brave, maybe foolish. Now we hunt you. No escape." Kyle froze. Enemy pilots were on the same channel. They were taunting her. Erin's eyes narrowed. She pressed her mic. Her voice was calm, sharp as a blade. "Funny thing about hunting," she replied. "Sometimes the prey has teeth." The enemy pilot laughed, static distorting his chuckle. "Your helicopter is slow, clumsy. You will burn." Erin leaned back, fingers light on the controls, her smirk returning. "Try me." The radio went silent. Above them, contrails streaked across the stars. More fighters, at least 4. Maybe more. Kyle's heart pounded. This is suicide. But Erin wasn't rattled. She was reading the canyon like a chessboard. Each bend, each rise, a potential move. Her mind raced through possibilities, calculating angles of attack, ambush points, escape routes. And she saw it, a collapsed rockfall ahead where the canyon widened, jagged boulders scattered like teeth. Beyond it, the walls funneled into a narrow chute barely wide enough for her rotors. A grin touched her lips. "Not suicide," she whispered. "Checkmate." Kyle frowned. "What?" She didn't answer. The roar of jet engines thundered closer. Shadows darted across the canyon walls as the first enemy fighter dove low, nose glowing with missile lock. The radar screamed. Kyle braced. Missile incoming. Erin flared the Apache violently, side-slipping behind the rockfall just as a missile streaked past. It slammed into stone, detonating in a violent eruption. Dust and fire filled the canyon. Before the smoke cleared, Erin surged forward into the choke point. The Apache slipped between the canyon walls like a shadow. Behind them, the fighters circled back, hunting, but the narrow walls made it impossible to follow directly. Kyle gasped, realizing her plan. "You're using the canyon as a shield. They can't fit." "Exactly," Erin said. "And if they want me, they'll have to make mistakes." Her eyes gleamed. She wasn't running. She was luring them. The second fighter swooped overhead, firing blindly into the canyon mouth. Explosions rattled the cliffs, but the walls shielded the Apache. Erin kept weaving through the narrow chute. Her hellfires armed, her mind waiting for the perfect moment. Over the radio, the enemy voice returned, now frustrated. "Clever, Apache, but rocks won't save you forever. We will flush you out." Erin smirked. "I'm counting on it." She tilted the Apache into a hover beneath an overhang, waiting. The rotors chopped quietly, barely audible against the roar of jets above. Then she saw it. The silhouette of a fighter banking too low, straining to spot them. Its belly was exposed, vulnerable. Her targeting system locked. Beep. Solid tone. Her thumb pressed down. The hellfire screamed upward, vanishing into the night. A heartbeat later, the sky bloomed in fire. The fighter disintegrated in a rain of molten shards, the explosion lighting the canyon like lightning. Kyle's breath caught. "That's 3. Erin's voice was steady. "And they'll keep coming until they understand." Above, the surviving fighters roared in furious loops, their engines howling like beasts denied their kill. Command voices erupted over the comms now, overlapping in chaos. Orders, disbelief, frantic updates. Somewhere far away, officers were scrambling to rewrite the rules of engagement. But in the canyon, in the cockpit of the Apache, there was only Erin, calm, sharp, relentless. And for the first time, Kyle realized the truth. She wasn't just surviving. She was hunting them. The wreckage of the third fighter still burned somewhere beyond the canyon walls, its fire staining the night with orange. But Erin Hawk Daniels didn't watch the flames. She stayed focused, hands steady on the Apache's cyclic, eyes flicking between instruments and the darkness outside. Her breathing was calm, deliberate. She wasn't rattled, not yet. Kyle Mercer, on the other hand, looked like he'd seen ghosts. His knuckles were bone-white as he gripped the edge of the console, staring at the targeting screen that showed the fading echo of the enemy fighter she had just obliterated. "That was 3, he whispered. His voice trembled with awe and fear all at once. 3 jets, by rights, Hawk. We should have been dead 20 minutes ago." Erin didn't answer immediately. Her eyes tracked the radar warning system, which kept screaming intermittently. High above, more signatures circled, predatory. Shapes just out of sight. "They don't stop," she finally said, her tone even. "They'll keep feeding pilots into this canyon until they find the one who gets lucky." Kyle swallowed hard. "Or until we run out of ammo." That earned him a glance. Erin's smirk was faint, but unmistakable. "Then we don't run." Out. The Apache dipped lower into the canyon. Its rotors thumped against the night air, blending with the distant thunder of jet engines. The helicopter wasn't just flying, it was slinking, crawling through the folds of the land like a predator waiting to strike. But the hunters above weren't blind. The radio crackled with static, then a voice, the same enemy accent, harsh and gloating. "Apache pilot, you have killed 3 of ours. Command says enough games. This time you will not escape." Kyle stiffened. They're broadcasting again. Erin's hand drifted to the mic switch, but she didn't transmit yet. She wanted to hear more. The voice continued. "You are brave, or maybe insane, but your helicopter is old. Your weapons finite. You are alone. We are many." Kyle's throat went dry. "They're right." Erin finally spoke into the mic, her voice cool, steady, almost taunting. "Funny thing about being alone," she said. "No one else slows you down." There was silence for a beat. Then the enemy pilot laughed, low and mocking. "We'll see how long you laugh when the swarm arrives." The radio went dead. Kyle turned toward her, panic flashing in his eyes. "Swarm? What the hell does that mean?" Before Erin could reply, the Apache's threat receiver shrieked. New blips filled the radar. Not just jets this time, smaller, faster signatures. Dozens of them. Kyle's voice cracked. "Drones. They've launched drones." And then the night sky lit up. Tiny points of light streaked down through the canyon like meteors, weaving, darting, their engines screaming in unison. Attack drones armed with missiles and cannons, swarming toward the Apache like a cloud of angry hornets. Kyle's heart thundered. "We can't fight all of them. Hawk, there's too many." But Erin was already moving. "Arm chain gun," she ordered. The M230 chain gun beneath the Apache's nose came alive, swiveling with a mechanical growl. Erin banked hard, hugging the canyon wall as the first drone dove. She squeezed the trigger. Tracers ripped through the darkness, shredding the drone in a burst of sparks and fire. Another swooped from the left. Erin rolled the Apache sideways, the rotors screaming inches from the cliff. She fired again. The drone erupted in flame, spiraling into the rocks. But 3 more surged in from above. Missiles streaked toward them. "Flares!" Kyle shouted, slamming the countermeasure switch. Bright decoys spewed into the night, confusing the missiles. They veered away, exploding harmlessly against the cliffs. The Apache shook violently, but held together. Kyle gasped for air, adrenaline surging. "We can't hold this, Hawk. There's too many targets." But Erin's face was locked in that same razor-sharp calm. Her voice was low, steady. "Then we make the canyon fight for us." She yanked the cyclic, pulling the Apache deeper, into the maze of stone. The walls closed in, twisting like a labyrinth. The drones followed, but their speed worked against them. They slammed into cliffs, tore each other apart in the tight turns, their formation fracturing. Erin pounced on their mistakes. Her chain gun shredded another. Her Hellfire missiles found two more. Each explosion rattled the canyon, sending echoes rolling like thunder. Kyle's eyes darted across the monitors, sweat pouring down his face. 6 down. 7. But Hawk ammo's bleeding out fast. "We've burned through almost everything." Erin fired again. Another drone vanished in fire. She spoke without looking at him. "We don't count rounds. We count kills." The swarm kept coming. 10, 12, 15 drones weaving through the canyon, missiles slashing at every turn. The Apache twisted and ducked, almost scraping rock, every move a gamble. And somehow, Erin kept laughing. A low, dangerous laugh that sent chills through Kyle's spine. "This is what they brought?" she muttered, pulling the Apache into a sudden climb. The rotors howled as they cleared a ridge by inches. Toys. She flipped the helicopter sideways, unleashing a burst of chain gun fire that ripped through 2 more drones. They spiraled into the canyon floor, exploding in twin blossoms of flame. Kyle stared at her in disbelief. "You're enjoying this?" Her eyes burned with a fire he'd never seen. "I told you," she said. "They think I'm prey. They don't understand yet." The last wave of drones descended, dozens of glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. It was a storm of metal and fire. Erin didn't hesitate. She pushed the Apache straight toward them. Kyle screamed. "You're charging them?" Her grin widened. "Exactly." The Apache dove headlong into the swarm. Chain gun roaring, missiles firing in rapid streaks. Drones burst apart in every direction, colliding with each other in chaos. The sky became an inferno of shrapnel, smoke, and fire. Kyle held on for dear life, convinced this was the end. But somehow, impossibly, the Apache punched through the other side of the swarm. Silence. He blinked, chest heaving, ears ringing. The radar was clear. The swarm was gone. He turned toward Erin. She was steady, breathing slow, her hands relaxed on the controls as though she'd just finished a training drill. "That's..." Kyle's voice cracked. "That's impossible." Erin's smirk was faint, but it was there. "No, that's skill." The radio crackled again, enemy voices chattering in disbelief. She had broken their swarm. But Erin knew better than to celebrate, because high above, more radar signatures appeared. Bigger ones, heavier. Kyle saw them too and went pale. "Oh, no. Hawk, they're sending bombers." Erin's jaw tightened. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the new threat. Then the real storm begins. The canyon had gone eerily silent after the last drone fireball burned out against the rocks. Smoke trailed upward, painting the moonlight in black ribbons. For a fleeting second, Kyle Mercer thought maybe, just maybe, they had done it. But the radar killed that hope in an instant. 3 enormous blips appeared high above, slow-moving, heavy, relentless. Kyle's stomach turned to stone. "Oh God, those aren't fighters. Hawk, those are bombers." Erin Daniels didn't flinch. Her gloved fingers tightened slightly on the Apache's cyclic, her jaw locking in focus. She knew the type before Kyle even finished saying it. TU-160 Blackjack class, Flying fortresses built to carry cruise missiles, cluster bombs, nuclear payloads if they wanted. And there were 3 of them. The radio crackled again, mocking voices flooding the channel. Apache pilot, you fought well. But this is where it ends. The sky belongs to us. The ground will burn beneath you. Kyle's hands were trembling. His voice caught between anger and panic. We can't stop those things. Hawk, a single bomber can erase this canyon. 3 of them? Will be vaporized before we even see their wings. Erin stayed calm. Her eyes traced the radar, watching the slow lumbering approach of the bombers. Her mind worked the geometry of the fight like a puzzle. They're too high to engage. Directly from here, she said quietly. Too armored for chain gunfire. Too slow for their fighters to cover them fast enough. Kyle frowned in disbelief. You're seriously analyzing how to take them on? Hawk, this isn't a duel anymore. This is suicide. Erin's lips curved into that same dangerous half-smile he'd seen before. The kind that didn't belong to someone cornered, but to someone hunting. Then it's the kind I like. She pulled the Apache up, climbing fast out of the canyon. The rotors thundered, straining as the battered helicopter clawed for altitude. The bombers loomed above the horizon now, massive black silhouettes crawling against the starlit sky. Their wingspan looked like something out of a nightmare. Broad, monstrous, each one capable of carrying a city's worth of destruction. Kyle's voice cracked. They're forming attack spread. They'll release ordnance any second. Before he finished, the first bomber's belly opened. A cluster of cruise missiles dropped into the night, igniting in brilliant white tails of fire. They screamed downward toward the canyon floor. The ground lit up like the sun. Explosions rolled through the earth, shaking the Apache violently, even from miles away. Rocks shattered. The canyon floor disintegrated under fire. Kyle shielded, his eyes from the glare. They're not even targeting us. They're leveling everything. Erin's eyes narrowed. They want to erase the ground so nothing survives. Including us. The second bomber opened its payload bay. More missiles streaked downward. The shock waves battered the Apache, tossing it like a toy. Kyle gripped the frame in terror, teeth rattling. This is impossible. Hawk, there's no way to close distance before. Erin cut him off, voice sharp as a blade. We don't close distance. We let them close it. Kyle blinked at her. What the hell does that even? Then he saw it. She wasn't climbing straight at the bombers anymore. She banked sharply, dropping the Apache back into the canyon, but on a new vector, weaving between stone walls while still rising in altitude. Her path wasn't random. It was angled, calculated, drawing the bombers in. Kyle realized with horror what she was doing. You're luring them? Hawk, they have enough explosives to bury us in rock. Her grin widened. Exactly. And when they follow, they'll lose their advantage. The canyon is mine, not theirs. The radio hissed again. Enemy voices, half mocking, half uncertain. Apache pilot, you are running again. But you cannot run from the sky. We will bury you. Erin flicked the mic. You already tried. Send bigger shovels. That single taunt echoed into the bombers' cockpits. For the first time, silence followed. Then engines roared above as the bombers dipped lower, adjusting altitude to track her. Kyle's blood went cold. Oh my God, they're actually taking the bait. A first bomber descended, its massive fuselage trembling the night with its roar. Its shadow washed over the canyon walls like a thundercloud. Behind it, the other 2 followed, tightening formation. The sky seemed to shrink, filled with black steel wings blotting out the stars. Kyle whispered, This canyon wasn't built for giants. They'll crush us. Erin's hands were steady. or it'll crush them. The first missile barrage streaked toward them. Aaron yanked the Apache sideways, rotors almost shaving stone, as explosions chased them through the canyon. Like a chain of fireballs. Rock walls collapsed, debris raining down. Kyle screamed, bracing against the console. The world was pure chaos, smoke and flame swallowing them whole. But somehow, impossibly, Aaron kept flying. Each dive, each roll, each banking turn scraped them past death by inches. She wasn't just avoiding missiles. She was guiding the bombers deeper, tighter into the canyon. Their formation wavered. Kyle noticed it first, disbelief flashing in his eyes. They're struggling. They can't keep this altitude in here. Aaron's smirk grew. Good. Then it's time to start carving them down. Her finger hit the weapons selector. What little she had left lit up on the display. 2 Hellfire missiles, less than 300 rounds of chain gun ammo. That was it. Kyle stammered. That's nowhere near enough to drop 3 heavy bombers. Aaron's eyes gleamed. We don't need to drop them. We just need to make them crash. The first bomber swooped lower, lining up for another missile volley. Aaron yanked the Apache upward, firing a single Hellfire into the cliffside above. The giant's wing. The explosion triggered an avalanche of stone. Boulders rained down, smashing into the bomber's fuselage. Its wing tore open like paper, one engine bursting into flame. Kyle's jaw dropped. You didn't shoot the plane. You shot the canyon. The bomber banked wildly, losing control. Its colossal frame couldn't recover in the tight space. With a deafening roar, it slammed into the canyon wall, erupting in a nuclear-bright explosion that shook the earth for miles. The shockwave hammered the Apache. Kyle nearly blacked out. When the smoke cleared, the bomber was gone. Nothing but fire and twisted wreckage remained. Aaron's voice was steady, cold. One down. The other 2 bombers pressed harder now, fury driving them. Missiles rained, carving the canyon to rubble. The Apache twisted through hellfire, each maneuver more reckless, more impossible than the last. Kyle's voice broke. We're out of cover. Hawk, they'll corner us. But Aaron wasn't panicking. Her eyes were locked ahead, on a narrow split in the canyon walls. A choke point. Not if I corner them first. She dived straight for it, skimming the canyon floor. The bombers followed, trying to squeeze their monstrous wings through the narrow pass. The second bomber clipped first. Metal shrieked as its wingtips smashed into stone, ripping the structure apart. The entire craft shuddered violently, spiraling. Its own payload detonated mid-air, engulfing it in a rolling inferno that consumed half the canyon with it. Kyle covered his head, screaming as the blast wave battered them. Debris tore across the Apache's skin. Warning lights blared everywhere, and when the flames died, only 1 bomber remained. Aaron's knuckles tightened on the controls. Her breathing finally quickened. She was exhausted, running on reflex and adrenaline. Kyle was pale, sweat streaming down his temples. Hawk, you've killed 2 bombers with nothing but rocks. And luck, but we're out of tricks. That last one, it'll finish us. The radar confirmed it. The third bomber was adjusting course, slower now, cautious. Whoever flew it wasn't reckless. Aaron stared into the night sky, her lips curling in defiance. Then we'll show them what's left when tricks run out. And she pulled the Apache higher into the firelit clouds, toward the final giant. The last bomber hung in the night sky like a black monolith, its massive wings blotting out the moonlight. Every radar ping in Aaron Hawk Daniels' cockpit screamed danger. The craft was larger than the ones before, its payload more destructive, its crew clearly more cautious. Kyle Mercer, co-pilot and lifelong admirer of Aaron's daring, could barely breathe. He had seen jets fall, drones explode, and even bombers crash under her cunning. But this was beyond belief. "It's the last one," he whispered, voice trembling. "One hit from it, and then we make sure it never hits anything." Erin interrupted, her gaze locked, precise, unflinching. Her hands caressed the Apache's controls, like a pianist's fingers over keys. "We end this now." Kyle swallowed, holding on to the console as the bomber adjusted its approach. Its massive frame was slow, deliberate. Missiles hummed in its belly, poised to strike. The Apache shivered under the wind turbulence from the bomber's jet wash. Erin's eyes flicked to her instruments. She had less than a minute before the bomber could unleash its payload. Less than a minute to make history. She banked hard, diving between the canyon walls once more. The bomber followed, unable to maneuver. In such tight terrain, Erin's smirk returned. "Too big for your own shadow, aren't you?" she murmured. Kyle's hands gripped the edge of the console. "Hawk, they can still kill us with one missile." "One? Then we bait them," she said softly. Again, the Apache banked sharply into a narrowing chute. The bomber followed, its wings, clipping stones and debris. Sparks flew. Metal groaned under stress. Its own inertia was becoming its enemy. Kyle's jaw dropped. She," Erin whispered, eyes tracking the bomber's flailing movement. "Watch and learn." The canyon split into a sharp Y, the walls towering like guardians of the earth. Erin leveled the Apache in the center, then slammed the cyclic to one side. The helicopter twisted, rotors nearly scraping stone, dodging falling boulders from previous explosions. The bomber's nose dipped too far to match her maneuver. Its wing clipped the canyon wall, tearing metal and sparking fire. Missiles tumbled from its racks prematurely, detonating harmlessly against stone. The bomber staggered, struggling to maintain flight. Kyle's voice shook. It's damaged." "But not down yet." "Not down," Erin agreed, "but scared. That's all we need." She leveled the Apache, raising it just above the bomber as the canyon widened slightly. Her final Hellfire missile armed itself with a soft beep. "Ready?" she asked. Kyle nodded, though his voice was barely audible. "Ready." Erin took a deep breath. "This ends tonight." The Apache surged forward. The missile streaked up, locking on to the bomber's weakened fuselage. Its sensors painted a perfect path. The bomber attempted to pull away, but its damaged wings and weight made precise maneuvers impossible. A massive explosion erupted, the missile detonating against the bomber's midsection. Fire roared, metal screamed, and the giant craft spiraled uncontrollably. Kyle held his helmet, shielding himself from the shockwave as the canyon floor vibrated. Through the canopy, the bomber disintegrated, tearing itself apart in a final incandescent blaze. Erin exhaled slowly, allowing herself a brief, sharp laugh. All gone. Kyle turned to her, eyes wide, chest heaving. "Hawk, you just destroyed an entire bomber formation. You survived everything. You're a legend." She didn't answer immediately. Her hands rested lightly on the controls. Calm as ever, though the Apache bore fresh scratches and dents from the battle. Her eyes scanned the canyon floor and walls, ensuring nothing was left to fall. Finally, she spoke, quiet but firm. "Legends aren't made by survival, Kyle. They're made by decisions. By daring. By knowing your enemy better than they know themselves. Tonight, we made history." The radio crackled. Command's voice, frantic but awed, cut through the static. "Viper 2-1. Do you copy? Report status immediately." Kyle picked up the microphone. His hands shook. "This is Viper 2-1. Apache intact. Enemy fighters destroyed. Bombers destroyed. Canyon survived. There was a long pause, static hummed, and multiple voices overlapped. Disbelief, orders, urgent chatter. Confirm. Repeat. 3 bombers destroyed? How is that possible? Aaron's voice finally came through the intercom. Calm, deliberate, almost regal. Impossible is just a word, sir. Facts are mine. The canyon echoed with the remnants of fire and shattered rock. Somewhere above, distant jets returned to orbit, unsure, cautious, unwilling to risk the canyon further. Satellites would have recorded every second. Commanders in distant rooms would argue endlessly over reports. Analysts would debate strategy. Historians would mark the day. But inside the cockpit, there was only Aaron Daniels and Kyle Mercer. 2 pilots alive, hearts pounding, yet a strange serenity had settled over them. Kyle's voice was soft, off-illed. Hawk, they'll write books about this. They'll call it impossible, unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. Erin allowed herself a brief smile. Say nothing. Watch, learn, survive. That's what matters. The Apache lifted higher, leaving the scorched canyon behind. The debris, the fire, the echoes of explosions, everything was testimony to the impossible. Yet Erin flew as if nothing extraordinary had happened, like every maneuver was routine. Above them, the night sky was quiet now. Stars twinkled, indifferent to human conflict. Yet below, the canyon was changed forever, its walls scarred, the earth hollowed, bearing witness to a battle that few would ever understand. Kyle looked. Over at her again, admiration and disbelief mingling. Do you ever sleep, Hawk? Erin's eyes were fixed forward, scanning, calculating. Sleep comes later. The sky never waits. She tapped the mic. Command, Viper 2-1 returning to base. Mission complete. There was a stunned silence over the line. Then, copy, mission. Recognized. Welcome home. The Apache banked, heading back toward civilization, battered but unbroken. And as they flew into the dawn, Kyle realized the truth. Captain Aaron Daniels had redefined what it meant to fly an Apache. She had faced impossible odds, outsmarted superior enemies, survived what no pilot should, and laughed in the face of death. She hadn't just survived, she had dominated. Legends weren't whispered in safe rooms. They were written in fire, steel, and courage. And tonight, in a narrow canyon in the middle of nowhere, one pilot's laugh echoed longer than any explosion. A laugh that would be remembered. A laugh that would become legend.